the federal government has officially certified Arizona as a Triple Crown state. We have the distinction of being the state with the highest concentration of COVID cases, the highest concentration of double-digit IQs, and the largest percentage of per capita gun ownership in the country. Coincidence? Well, if you wanted honesty, you've come to the wrong place. This is the Disinformed podcast. I'm Shane.
I'm John.
And I'm Michael.
And here are Triple Crown winners, gentlemen. Congrats.
I feel like after you said that, there needed to be like a doo 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 doo. Blah, 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 blah.
It's the air horn.
Shots fired, as a matter of
yeah,
certain
right.
fact. Yes,
Isn't it astounding
man.
when you celebrate the fact that we're under 1,000 cases? Like, people are like, oh, look, the cases look so great today. I'm like, yeah, it's 900. It's 600. Like, that's not, like, it's going in the right direction. Sure. That's not what I'm arguing. But, like,
yes, but still.
Don't tell me what a monumentous occasion it is that there's, you know?
It's because we're not testing as much.
Yeah.
So, I have returned back to being in a job where we are open to individuals coming back in. And I guarantee you that I'm not lying. This is not conflated at all. The number of individuals I have to speak to who are not wearing a mask and not compliant with the university standard is 80%.
They call that a target-rich environment in the military.
Yeah, well, if only. I have worn out my tolerance on several people this week. So, as of right now, of this very moment, I am fairly certain that some single-celled amoeba is just gonna amble out of the protozoan protoplasm and take a fucking Psychology 101 class on the campus that I am at this semester, because that is the level of intellect I am seeing on a daily basis from these mouth-breathing, cousin-copulating, silly sons of bitches who don't understand that this isn't a fucking tickle fight. We're not having fun. People are goddamn dying from this. And it's like, oh, well, I thought I was indoors so I could take the mask off. No.
I think I am not happy that you were experiencing this, but I'm happy that you finally are, because I feel like Michael and I have, like, kind of, we were thrown into it earlier, and these are the exact thoughts that I was having, and it's like Michael finally understanding all of our movie references. Like, what an occasion that would be is, like, kind of what I'm having right now.
Well, the difficulty between is I actually was sitting and thinking about it is you, at the very least, if someone walks in, you can point to the door and be like, get the fuck out.
That is a grace I'm awarded.
I have to walk up and fucking, like, patty cake powder push these people of like, hey, did you happen to forget your mask? Oh, you don't want to wear it? Oh, okay, you think this is all a hoax? Well, let's sit down and have a substantive conversation, because I'm going to experience empathy with you. Let's talk this out. Why do you feel that way? Let me try to help educate you about this, because we are in a community that cares about one another. As opposed to my normal response, which would be, I'm going to drag you by your fucking tongue out of this building if you don't stand the fuck up or put a mask on. Your choice. And that's not what we're told. We have to coddle and try to make people feel comfortable in spite of, their intellectual challenges.
Meanwhile, please tell me that isn't the case, because
Michael, you took that training. You know that's true. Like, you sat for those conversations. That's what they want you to do, is to sit and go, well, I appreciate you feel that way. And, here's a mask I can offer you, and if you don't want it, then I will have to gently suggest that you leave. And if you refuse to do so, I have to then continue to try to find other ways to let you, get out of it yourself.
Oh, I'm not going to be able to handle that. I will literally have a panic attack. I did that this week, actually. I had my first person that legit said, I have a condition. And at that point, I looked at the driver that was at the front desk, and I was like, you take care of him. I'm not. And I walked away. And then as soon as that guy walked out the door, I screamed and yelled for a good 5 minutes just to the store. And I decided that if people were going to refuse to put on a mask, I was going to refuse service. I said that in front of my boss, who offered the intelligent suggestion of serving them outside the door. And I was like, okay, they can stay outside the door. They aren't breaking the rules. They don't have to have a mask outside. Technically, not really, but whatever. If they put down money or card, I will disinfect it because we have a fancy UV light wand. I will do that.
Good.
Oh, yes. They will slide their money under the door. I will do that. I will disinfect that. I will input the money, and I will push the pizza out after disinfecting it for them. I told that to him, to his face, because I'm like, no, you heard me freaking out 10 fucking minutes ago.
Also,
you're going to UV the pizza?
Yes.
And the credit cards.
Yes. Everything.
To Michael's experience, too, like, outside of, like, money, which you need to, support your family that you now have.
Christ.
Like, you have nothing to lose in that store. Like, you live so far away from that shop now that, like, it would almost be like a mercy killing for him to fire you at this point. I mean, it would suck for you to have to find another job, but, like...
And parking on campus, which is his primary motivation.
Man, fuck it. As far away as you are, you just parachute in. Fuck it.
Jet fuel these cheaper. Days is pretty affordable. Yeah,
it would be cheaper than paying for the parking. You could probably it would probably be equal cost to parachute in every day.
Have you tried astral projecting to work?
I wish I could. If I could astral project, that would be way better. I mean, that would be better than remote.
I mean, Arizonans have been asshole projecting this entire time. At least we can try to get on the same page.
I just got to go up north to Sedona and get enough of those crystals where I can do the astral projection and clean my chakras and all that fun shit.
Or just put the UV wand up your ass and you'll be fine.
I'll be super powered, man.
He already does that for fun.
I'll be like the Flash.
I feel like the triangle... I think our experiences do form a triangle, and that, we have some shared in the middle a little bit, but, like, Shane has to be empathetic and nice. But I still feel like, Shane, you have a little bit of liberty, a little bit of wiggle room, maybe. Michael, you don't really have a wiggle room. You can rebuke, and you can tell your boss what you think, but there's nothing like that. And then I feel like I'm on the edge where, like, maybe it's a Venn diagram. It's a Venn diagram that I'm trying to describe here.
It's a pentagram. Get it?
But where I'm at, it's where I've been for a few months. Yeah, I get it. Hail Stan. Is that I don't want to refuse service. We accommodate and we have masks available, like, disposable ones, but it is a requirement. Like 100% a requirement. But I have to tiptoe between, like, I don't want to be an asshole, even though you're being an asshole. I don't know where that came from because my personality usually does not lean that way. But what I've tried to do, maybe it's because I just don't like confrontation. So,
I don't know anyone who really relishes
this. Is not an issue that, like, it's an issue that would lend itself to confrontation real easily if you just react emotionally. So, like, what I have to do is, like, people come in, like, and they do the dick nose approach, where the mask is on over their mouth but not their nose, or I have people that think that in order to talk to me that they have to take their mask off.
Oh my god, that is like every other customer at Howie's.
Here's what I say.
I'm like, I can hear you.
That's what I say. I'm like, so they'll take it down. I'm like, oh, I can hear you just fine. You can leave your mask on. Is what I'll say. I'll say it's super nice. And then with the dick noses, I'll be like, oh, hey, it looks like your mask slipped down a little bit.
You are way nicer than I am.
And there's only one customer that I've nearly laid hands on, and he's this old guy. Apparently, he lives 2 or 3 doors down from 3 doors down. Yeah,
damn it,
from the owner of our shop. And he comes in. Stop me if I've already described him, but he comes in wearing what looks like he cut the bottom of a 2-gallon jug, and then he affixed like crude like rubber banding on each side, so it covers his chin and maybe like 3/4 of his mouth and barely the tip of his nose. And with the fact that it's not flush or even close to being flush around the face, it's like the most passive aggressive protest I've ever seen. And on top of that, he's a cunt. And Michael said that I can say that now. So, like, he's just one of the most annoying
cunt
people.
All you want.
Yeah. He's one of the most annoying people that come into that store on a semi-regular basis pre-COVID. And now during this time, I'm just like, how do you not have it yet? Like, he is the person that should be concerned. So I haven't seen him this week, so I don't want to wish ill on anybody. But if I were to wish ill on somebody, I mean, he kind of played his cards.
Yeah, so Emmett Otter and the goddamn jug band Christmas walks in.
Yeah. And he always indignantly like walks into the store without his mask, and every single time without fail, I'm like, oh hey man, do you need a mask? And he's like, oh wait, yeah, I got one. He walks back to his car and puts on that fucking thing. I was like,
It's like, what do you gain from doing that?
I want to throat punch you.
I get that from construction workers every single fucking day. And they have bandanas on their head. They wear bandanas to collect sweat. And it's like, okay, you're okay with wearing things on your face. When you come on the forehead, you come on the forehead, apply directly to the forehead, etc. But you already wear a bandana, right? You already have one on your forehead. Why not just on your face? Even if it's not a good mask, it's still a bandana. Just fucking wear it.
I can't breathe, man. It restricts me. And, I can say that once and suddenly get empathy from people, but someone else says it 87 times when someone's kneeling on the back of his neck and no one pays attention.
Ooh!
What do you know?
Hot fucking take right there.
I hate white people.
There's a
also,
meme
I
that I love seeing.
Go for it, and then I'm going to tell you something, Michael.
That's fine. There's a meme I love seeing where it just shows like it's some sort of like news article of like, I don't know, Bama, Roll Tide or something like that, and it shows this like this black guy reading a magazine that looks like a People magazine, but instead of people, it says white people. And he just looks at it all like questioned, like confused. And I love that like little picture. I love that meme so much because it describes how I feel about my people so often. Where I'm just like, I'll look at people and I'll be like, fucking white people, and am I right? And they'll look at me like all fucking confused, and I'm like, I'm white. I can say that. I can bag on my own culture.
Speaking of things that white people can
Crack
say,
ass honkies.
Yes. So get ready, Michael, because I'm going to admonish you, and then secondarily, I'm going to congratulate you. So in that order, I demand satisfaction because you unrightfully and unlawfully censored me last week. You put me in jail for something that wasn't even a crime. When we were talking about Ben Shapiro and Nicki Minaj's new song, and I'll preface this by saying, 1, I am aware that certain ways of the pronunciation does lean towards it sounding like the pejorative. But I sent Michael a link to the song Wet Ass Pussy by Cardi B and sent him a timestamp. They do, in fact, inside of the song, refer to it as wop, wop, wop.
Yes.
Instead, but I agree.
Yes,
Michael,
right. No, you're right.
Michael made me wake up last Thursday being like, oh my God, how was I so accidentally insensitive? Because it's WAP, like it could be whap, whap, whap. And
I honestly thought it was like that, like a newspaper to a dog's nose or something if they did something bad, like whap, whap. So,
there's a dog involved in that song.
There's a tiger too, and a Jenner or two.
Oh my God, that video, I saw about 10 seconds of it, and I felt my brain throw up.
I watched it 6
times. I actually felt something run down the base of my spine.
This explains a lot.
If only. Man, if that aroused me, I would seek counseling for an extensive period of time. Because those two women actually, like, together could intimidate a dick back into my intestines.
Like a turtle.
Yes.
I don't know, ever... look at the turtle and his enormous girth.
Look at the turtle.
On his shell, he holds the earth.
On his back, he holds the earth.
Yeah.
Jesus.
But on the same topic, during that conversation, Michael recommended, or because we brought up Ben Shapiro, you brought up, Michael, the Joe Rogan episode of him interviewing Ben Shapiro. And I watched it, the entire thing. And I hate myself because I loved that episode. I mean, I hated, parts of it, but there's a comment inside of the video that I think kind of like summed it up really well. And it was like, I want to show this to my children on how to have a conversation with somebody who has a difference of opinion than you, because of how like they never got heated with each other. They never insulted each other's intelligence. It was just a very professional conversation while still being human in the middle. And I really respected it.
Candid.
Yeah. And I when I went home, because I watched most of it at work, when I went home, I was telling Becky, when I was like, getting up on the couch. And she goes, "Oh, well, that makes a lot of sense." She goes, I was like, "What do you mean makes a lot of sense?" She goes, "That you're starting to like Joe Rogan." I was like, I'm not tracking. She goes, "Okay, because I just turned 29 in the past week." She goes, "Well, if it's my understanding is that by the time a man turns 30, he loves Joe Rogan." So you have 1 year until you love Joe Rogan. So it's already starting.
That's great.
It's one of those things we've talked about frequently where having civil discourse is just a lost art. And in particular, the Daryl Davis episode is the one that was a real eye-opener for me as far as like actually just admitting that the guy's
Daryl Davis?
Great with discourse. Daryl Davis is the gentleman who has like single-handedly caused throngs of individuals to leave the KKK. And it is. I sent you the link when I was recommending episodes, so if you go back,
probably
to
got
your
lost
Facebook
in the
Messenger, you'll see it. But he essentially talked the Imperial Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan out of the Ku Klux Klan and essentially almost shut the entire thing down because they lost their entire leadership structure.
Damn.
And his story is incredibly compelling, and they get into a lot of the minutia of, what motivated Daryl Davis to want to get involved and the mechanism through which he started talking to people. And it was literally just sitting down and having conversations and just saying, "Why do you feel this way?" There's a really excellent sort of anecdote that he says where he's discussing a member, there's a Cloylift that he talked to in Maryland who said, "Well, it's a commonly known fact that all black people have a gene. It's a genetically imbued thing that makes them prone to violence and crime." And so Daryl Davis's retort is, "Well, I've never committed a crime in my life, and I'm black." And the guy, without missing a beat's like, "Well, it's just a latent gene in you. It hasn't manifested yet."
Fuck yourself.
And so Daryl Davis's exact retort is, without skipping a beat again, he goes, "Well, it's also a commonly held belief and something that's pretty well known that all white people are serial killers." And he said, "You name me, like 1 or 2 black serial killers." He said, "I'll even spot you names." And he listed one, and the guy had no other reference. He says, "Okay, now name some white serial killers." And started running down the list of like, okay, Jeffrey Dahmer, Gary Heidnik, and like he can run through, and he goes,
"Yeah."
And so the guy's like, "But I haven't killed anybody. I'm white." And he says, "Oh, well, it's just a latent gene in you." And the guy is completely taken aback, like wholly nonplussed. And
Beautiful.
He just said, "This is how crazy you sound saying things like that," which is, it's uneducated and it's suspect rationale. You're using fallacies. And just talk the guy off. He's like, "Holy shit, I had no idea. I said, that sounds stupid." And, just causing those little subtle realizations. So the Daryl Davis one really brought me around, whereas I was entertained by Rogan's stuff previously, but once I actually saw him having on guests that have real transformative and substantive conversations and actual perspectives that help to change things, it really brought me around. And so, yes, I am in my 30s, so I can say I do fall into that demographic.
Yeah.
And,
and it's interesting to see what you're talking about with Joe Rogan's guests, like as it went on, because I kind of like perused like episodes just to see if I had any guests in particular, like, oh, that would be cool. What's interesting to me is that Joe Rogan and Tom Segura's podcast both kind of, they have like a similar following ish because they are friends, Tom Segura and Joe Rogan.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
right.
You go to early YMH episodes, and it's within, I think, the first 10 or 20 episodes, I think, he's a guest on the show. Just because they're hanging out. They're talking. So to see it go from him treating it more like a comedy podcast and being more serious and more interviewee is interesting. And then
it's also somebody who's really doing an excellent thing with his platform, not to cut you off. But, like, he's doing something that is intended to actually have decent conversations, so with his power, he's using it respectfully and having the guests that he should. But anywho, please continue.
Oh, no, you're good. I was going to do a little bit more, like, housekeeping, or not housekeeping, but follow-up from last week. At work, yesterday, I listened to Alien Ant Farm's first album, and I listened to Fuel's first album for the first time in earnest in a very long time. Alien Ant Farm is a long play. Like, that's a really long album. I kind of lost interest like 8 songs in because it's very one note. But that being said, the one note is very fun and holds up way better than I thought.
I did the same thing. I went and re-listened, and I appreciated a lot of the songs on there as much as I did when I was younger.
And then with Fuel, I still enjoyed it, but because of nostalgia, I don't like if I was brand spanking new to the band and went in and listened to Fuel right now, I don't think I'd be a fan just based on where I am in my life. But it was a very weird thing of being like, I remember all the words, I remember all the chords and like the riffs, and I think that was one of the first tablature books that I ever like. It was one of the first couple tab books that I ever had in my life. Like my brother bought it
for
and
Sunburn.
and I stole it from him. And so I was listening back to some songs going like, oh, I didn't even hear that. Now that I am more intimate with music, like I was like, I didn't even notice that line in the background. Because now, like, Shane, you and I, like, will play guitar parts with each other where, like, I'll be doing something just very one-notey, like atmosphere in the background. And it's something that you don't know it's there until you take it out. And it's the same thing with some Fuel parts. So it's like, okay, so maybe I did get it from somewhere. You know, like, there's an inception point.
Production.
Yeah. And I'm really excited for this. I've been really bored at work. You know, I have a lot of time on my hands, so I've been kind of thinking about some shit we could do. And
all right.
Okay.
There is something that we haven't checked in on in a really, really long time. And in particular, I'm excited to see what it looks like for Michael. Your Instagram targeted ads, or your Instagram ad. So I checked mine before I logged in.
Okay.
And here's my update on Instagram ads.
Okay.
Shopping and fashion, jewelry, luxury goods, boutiques, tattoos, physical exercise, real estate, and get this, association football, parenthetical soccer, nature, and video games. I just
don't believe it.
I cannot believe that the first half of that is like bougie as shit, because I don't own jewelry. Shopping and fashion, I wear band tees and brewery shirts. I would hardly call that fashion. And I don't own many luxury items, and I sure as hell ain't shopping in boutiques. Michael, did you get yours?
Yes. All right. So
you're gonna also need to like old man me, because I do not remember how the hell.
All right, Michael.
So it's settings.
Yep.
Oh, settings, security, and then it was access data, and then add interests all the way at the bottom. Yes. Yes.
I believe so. Shane.
Okay. I will show you.
Well, hold on.
Your account.
Hold on.
Yeah,
because we need to update. We need to update the listeners real quick, because we have a lot of new people here that haven't heard this.
Fair. There you go.
Michael,
there you go.
Do you remember the last time that we pulled these up and what your ad interest was?
Shit, that must have been, I don't know, episode
it was over
8 or
a year
9.
ago. No, it was like episode 3 or something. Or 4.
No, we did a follow-up on that. Not too long. It was originally brought up on the second episode. But I think we like spaced it out to where like a couple, like we did like a couple episodes.
No need to go in the weeds.
Yeah. Anyway,
but
your ad interest.
microphones.
Yes.
Was
what is it now?
Yes. It is, and I will show you on the Zoom thing. Your account doesn't have any information to show here, and exactly. Oh, it doesn't read very well.
And Shane. No. So what you're telling me is that your Instagram killed itself. It was like, we don't know what pleases this fucking enigma. Just
what do you want from me? The Instagram
they want you to
gestures
log
at me.
in is what they want.
You can join Michael on next week's TED Talk on living off the grid. Is it okay to drink your own pee and eat your own poop? Tune in to find out.
Don't you tease them of what I'm gonna present next.
Captain Pika's back, I think.
Captain Pika.
Pika, you dead?
Shane, what do you got, my love?
Before we really go into this, though, John, I think I can sleuth out why you have your bougie boutique stuff. How many scantily clad women are advertising like wetware and lingerie when you're looking at them?
Oh, that makes so much
sense. It just occurred to me. I was like, I bet you 80% of the girls who are barely clad showing the booty are trying to advertise.
I can think of 2 right now, Emila Ratajkowski does have her own swimwear and clothing wear. What is it? Inamorta, I think is what it's called. And
boom.
Some of her best pictures, I would argue, are from those ads. So,
ladies and gentlemen, if you were not prepared for the fappening, you must run, seek absolution elsewhere, and hide your kids, hide your wives, because John's getting Ratajkowski all over in your ass.
I wish.
Shane's ad interests presently. Spas.
Okay.
I've never been to a spa in my, bloody life.
Never tried.
Tattoos.
Okay.
Beauty. Which
you are gorgeous.
I don't possess any, so I don't understand. Sports, food, televisions, hip hop music, comedy movies, fast food, rock music, American football.
Wait, you got American?
American football. So I've officially become Americanized. Music videos, movies, rhythm and blues music, action movies, coffee, music, thriller movies, heavy metal music, blues music. This thing keeps going, man.
Oh yeah,
I've got,
we just took the first half. Okay, so you're the only one. I get it.
I like music and movies.
Yeah, you're the only one with like a normal ass targeted feed. I wonder what I'm doing to confuse this algorithm.
Masturbating.
I mean, probably.
Frequently, while employing it.
It's really become a problem.
I imagine the carpal tunnel alone is going to make our music career shortened by at least a decade.
I will never do fast triplets on picking again. That's for sure.
No. Yeah.
That alone just sounds painful. Fast triplets.
It's basically all my favorite metal.
And all his favorite pornography. fast triplets.
Zing.
Jesus.
So, speaking of things that John actually got me hooked on based on prior episodes, so we are just like fully fleshing this whole thing out.
It's like I said last week, we don't actually reminisce during the anniversary. Take a drink, I mispronounced the word.
Be very, very quiet. Michael is hunting anniversaries.
Jesus, now I lost my train of thought.
We don't talk about the things right.
Yes.
So, the afterbirth here is YouTube has finally become a thing for me and a go-to destination for 1 and 2 separate items.
Okay.
Firstly, the National Basketball Association is, of course, in the midst of the playoffs, so I can watch the full game highlights of everything, and I'm watching the game in short form I don't check scores, I just try to watch the highlights and watch the game as though it's happening. So it's an immersive experience for me.
So I should never text you about that again.
No.
Okay.
Please.
But then also, I hit a really big, nasty puddle of tar that has completely wrapped me up. GQ does interviews with actors about their most iconic roles. So they would sit down with, as an example, the ones I watched last night, they had Danny DeVito, and, heavens, Ethan Hawke. Like, they just grab throngs of actors. Jake Gyllenhaal has one. Schwarzenegger has one. They grab so many random... Martin Freeman has an amazing one. But they will just sit down and ask them to talk about random strings of films. The ones that really got me, John Goodman has one, and Jeff Bridges has one. And, of course, there's a decent amount of Lebowski talk, but there's also tons of Coen Brothers conversation. And they will just sit and run down, fun little stories about things that happened while they were on the set, or why they made particular acting choices, and things that... So for a cinephile, or a cineast like myself, I cannot stop watching these things. I will run them like 7 to 8 deep, and they're 20 to 30 minutes per. Wow. Some of them are 40 minutes, and I cannot stop myself.
It might be worthwhile. I think I might be able to throw that on at work. My YouTube has gotten really weird lately because of the time being at work. So how I do like most of my shifts right now is I use Spotify to listen to podcasts. So I'll put in my earbud, like one earbud, because it's like it's Samsung's version of iPod or whatever. Fuck.
Eye, ear.
Yeah, whatever. So I have a Galaxy Bud in one ear that has like a podcast, and then I'll use our stereo system to use it like Google to throw on like a instrumental hip hop playlist or whatever, just a random radio station. And then it feels really bizarre to not have TVs on at that job, because it's all I've ever known is like having different like media, like, you know, visually pleasing things just out of your corner of your eye. So I've been pulling up visualizers to put on the biggest TV in the store. Of like yesterday it was just like space, like it was like a satellite image that was just like going around the globe for like my entire shift.
Yeah, because NASA has a lot of those streams where they just like have shots from the International Space Station and all that stuff. So
yeah, so my recommended feed now went from being very like hyper focused, like, oh my god, everything YouTube recommended for me, I was like, sweet, to it's a jumble. It's like, hey, here's some Dead by Daylight tips. Oh, here's another 17-hour stream of somebody staring at a log. And, like, all this dumb shit. But, Shane, speaking of being a cinephile, do you have a better memory than I do? And Michael, feel free to chime in, but I know you haven't seen any of these movies.
What's a movie?
Exactly. When you watch a movie, like, if you were in recent memory, like, finished watching a movie and just been like, God, that was incredible. I wonder if it won something, and then feeling immediately validated by being like, oh my god, yeah, it totally fucking did. I rewatched Blade Runner 2049 last week, and the entire time I was like, I don't know why I haven't rewatched this since I saw it in theaters, because it is remarkable. Like, it's just a gorgeous movie. Overall, I enjoyed it, because I watched the original Blade Runner before it last week too, just to flush the whole thing out, and amazing. And I was like looking it up, and it won best cinematography and like everything. It was great. Anyway,
what's funny is I was also thinking about this listening back to the After Dark when you brought up the Lars von Trier. I didn't want to extend another 40 minutes into that discussion. I hated Melancholia when I watched it. I thought it was the biggest waste of time I had ever seen. Like, and I wasn't familiar with the Lars von Trier oeuvre. It was something a colleague of mine, Tony, who's a marvelous guy, he gave it to me to watch because he and I both really appreciate film, and he thought I would have liked it.
Oh, man.
But I think I need to go revisit it because, again, it's like I've said, I really hated Mulholland Drive the first time I saw it. It was the worst film I'd ever seen in my life, and I've come to accept what it is, and I appreciate it a little bit more now. It's not going to be on my top 10 list of things to watch, but I understand the meaning.
Okay.
But watching Melancholia was a slice of life of some of the most deplorable people just, mean mugging each other for 2 hours.
Okay.
And just watching people putting the funk back in dysfunction. And then I will save the spoiler he was alluding to at the end there. But at the end, it's very visually stunning by the time you get to the end. So it's worth getting to. But it's 2.5 hours in by the time you even get to that. And I was so beaten into the ground by hating Kirsten Dunst and all the other individuals in that movie. I was like, I hate this whole film and I don't get the point. But again, to his point, it's kind of this slice of life, a real shot of just watching people actually in what you would consider to be reality of watching how deplorable man's inhumanity to man is. So I guess, and that seems to be a very thematic sort of bit of continuity for Von Trier stuff, is this idea of our own inhumanity to one another. Foibles, if you will.
Right.
Foibles.
Well, I think it might be interesting for us to rewatch that around the same time. Or for you to rewatch it around the same time that I watch it. And Michael, if you wanted to try and fail to join our film club again, I'd extend that olive branch.
If we actually get our schedules aligned and the planets aligned, we can always watch it and record our commentary.
See,
and then put it up somewhere.
The only problem that I have with that is that I have my last note, because I wrote things that I wanted to make sure that I said to you guys today. Right. I think that we should save that for October, because what I think we should do is a full episode. And we just tell the the listeners, press play now, and we should do a watch through of The Shining together in October.
Ooh,
like that would be marvelous.
Maybe to air the week of Halloween. That would be the Halloween episode.
My only reticence in that entire thing is I am so enamored with the underlying score and the atmospheric kind of vibe of that film, particularly just the opening sequence. I love the musical pitches and the weird little lilting things that happen. It's such a great atmosphere setter for that. I will miss that, but I can endure for the sake of the listeners.
No, I thought you would be saying, like, shut the fuck up, I want to listen to this.
It's not like we want to turn into, like, Mystery Theater 3000, is that what it is?
Right.
We're not trying to, like...
We're not... MST 3K. Jesus.
Bless you.
And
it's
I'm
not like
Michael.
we're trying... It's 11! It's not like we're trying to roast the whole movie or anything. So I would be, like, if we think we can do it while still, like, having some, like, fun chit-chatty stuff throughout, then I'm down for it. But I felt like it warranted bringing the discussion back up to see if maybe that was something we would want to do.
Yeah.
We can always put it up to the viewers, and if they think that it's an absolutely terrible idea, then we'll listen to them. Otherwise, we'll probably just forge on ahead.
I mean, look at the number of terrible ideas that we're actually putting into motion. I'm going to, work with people who have no masks on and no concern for themselves or others in the sake of general welfare and health. So I'll do anything, apparently, for money.
I have to teach those fuckers, so that's the thing I'm more afraid of. I can't just kick a person out. No, you can't actually attend your class that you're supposed to attend because you won't wear a mask. Like, I need to ask and figure that out because I don't fucking know.
Well, Michael, if you ever get fired from this position, you can always take up a job at Miskatonic University.
I would.
Which leads us into our topic.
There we
for
go.
this week.
Gasp.
So, in case you are now 40 minutes into this discussion and you don't know, what we typically do on this podcast is we will present a random, obscure, or esoteric topic for all of you, the listeners. And in the course of discussing it for the sake of education, we will also leaven in a lie or two from time to time. And it is then incumbent on the co-hosts in your place, as the ersatz sort of listener for you, to separate the fact from the fiction, to call out the lies, point at them, and say, interloper!
Or posse.
Posse.
You can say posse whenever you want. I mean, I'm fine with that. And so, the points, of course, mean nothing, and there are no winners in this game, but it's just fun for us, and it's the conceit for the whole podcast, so obviously that's what we're invested in doing. And this week, we are going to be discussing one of the greatest things that I have ever encountered, particularly the ramifications of pop culture that I have seen, or the permutations that existed beyond its original inception. We are going to discuss the Necronomicon.
Yes.
Metal
Give
fingers.
it to me, Daddy.
Ugh, please stop saying that.
Sorry, Dad.
Straighten up and fly right. Take you outside. Or as my father used to threaten...
I'm a peacock, you gotta let me fly.
Oh, speaking of Peacock, no, that is NBC's streaming platform is called Peacock, and
is it really?
Oh, it's NBC.
Yeah.
I didn't know who was tied to it. I thought it was almost like a Quibi.
Well, it's their logo, okay. So obviously they are the ones invested.
Holy shit! I just got that.
Hello.
That makes a lot more sense now.
Yes,
I see why it's called
the world,
Peacock.
Michael.
Okay.
All right, so this is going to be my favorite episode probably because...
Is that the mating call of a peacock?
Just open up your mouth and go, ugh, that's your mating call.
Baby, I'm a firework?
I wish you were, because you would have blown up ages ago.
I'm a dud.
No, you're a sparkler is what you are.
I like it when they flirt.
It's an awful lot of shimmer and no bang. That's Michael.
I like that
Don't
on this
grab
show.
the wrong way or else I'll burn you.
I like how we have this like very sitcom-y will they won't they thing that's been going on for a while now.
Yes, it's beautiful.
Add the laugh track in right here.
If you do that, I will kiss you on the mouth. Or not, depending on what you want.
Jesus. Tune in next week to find out.
Shame.
This is the worst version of moonlighting I've ever seen. So,
oh, I'm dead inside.
The Necronomicon, also referred to as the Book of the Dead, or under a purported original Arabic title of Kitab al-Asif. I'm not going to explain anything about pronunciation or etymology of phrases like Michael did last week to bore everybody to tears.
Thank you.
Is the did you say Aramaic?
It's
is that
Arabic.
Bullshit?
No, it's
Arabic,
not.
Sorry.
Yes. Dude, we're a sentence in.
You're not even gonna trust me.
I always call bullshit within the first minute of you starting.
Well, bullshit. There's gonna be plenty of stuff for you to swing at, I promise. So it is a fictional grimoire, which is a magical spell book or a tome, appearing in stories by the horror writer H.P. Lovecraft and his followers. It was first mentioned in Lovecraft's 1924 short story The Hound, which was written in 1922. Though its purported author, and this is not my phrasing, this is our friend the notoriously difficult to deal with Lovecraft, the Mad Arab Abdul Alhazred, and it has been quoted a year earlier in Lovecraft's The Nameless City. Among other things, the work contains an account of the Old Ones, which is very big in the Lovecraft lore, which lends into, the Cthulhu mythos and others, their history, and of course, the means to summon them from the other dimension that they are slumbering in. So, other authors, such as August Derleth and Clark Ashton Smith, also cited the Necronomicon in their works. Lovecraft approved of other writers building on his work, believing such common allusions built up a background of evil verisimilitude. So how's that for a quote?
That's a $10 word right there.
Indeed.
Yeah. Define.
I'm not clicking on that right now. I'm in, tablet mode. I'll never get back to this.
Also, I totally didn't remember, or I guess I never even connected that it was H.P. Lovecraft, and I know that Michael has read, or I remember when Michael was going through his kick of reading H.P. Lovecraft, and then just being like, hey, did you know that this guy was just blatantly super racist? And I was like,
super racist.
I was like, I'd never really picked up on that. And then this past week, HBO debuted Lovecraft Country, which is their new show. And I highly recommend that you guys go watch the pilot, because it's a really good show so far, and it's in that weird area where it could go anywhere. And there's
okay,
but also you can pick up on a lot of those underlying racist tones.
Problematic approaches. Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's funny? I really enjoy a lot of the spin-off series and other authors who run with the concepts of Lovecraft much more than I like Lovecraft. It's kind of like David Bowie. I appreciate his songwriting, but I don't like his singing. Same general principle. I love Lovecraft's ideas. I'm very attached to them, and anything like Bloodborne is my favorite game for a reason, because it is very Lovecraftian. And so, as these things begin to manifest, I start running. But the more I read Lovecraft, his use of the language is a bit unwieldy. One, because of the time that he wrote in, but secondarily, just because he's a bit more enamored with the language than some. Like James Joyce, I can understand him being fixated on, how florid the language is. Lovecraft just gets really mired in it at points.
He takes a long time to get to a point. You're not getting necessarily bored, but he takes a long time. He's almost like a lecturer sometimes.
Yes.
When he doesn't try and explain everything, but he's a lot like me, which is, I think, why I enjoy him so much. Because he takes forever to get to a point, and your mind is already stretched to Euclidean dimensions. You don't understand what's going on.
So our new phrase
someone puts it really well. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Shane.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, you make a meal of it. Lovecraft really makes a meal.
I make a 5-course meal.
Yeah, you fucking do.
So, as of this very moment from now on, it'll be, and I'm Lovecraft.
Cthulhu Flatagan.
Okay.
It's a living.
So many readers, by the way, verisimilitude would mean just, if I can try to whittle this out to the best of my ability, things that are similar to or in a similar vein, like things that bear a striking resemblance to one another, a facsimile thereof, so just something that all these things bear a similar sort of evil feel to them.
Gotcha.
To answer your question from earlier.
Thank you.
Anywho, so many readers have believed it to be a real work, with booksellers and librarians receiving many requests for it. It's one of the reasons I love this topic.
Oh,
Pranksters have even gone so far as to list it in rare book catalogs, and a student smuggled a card for it into the Yale Library's card catalog.
Bullshit.
actually happened.
No fucking way.
An attendee of Yale University snuck a card for it into the card catalog, which is one of my absolute favorite, like, folk tales.
Respect.
So then you got the university library getting requests of, like, I tried to find it on the shelf and it's not there, so could you track it for me? Because I want to look at it.
I like it.
The fact that Lovecraft also refers to it being held by certain places also kind of lends to this, as you'll see later. But so, capitalizing on the notoriety of the fictional volume, real-life publishers have actually printed many books entitled Necronomicon since Lovecraft's death. I might touch on that a little bit, but considering how long we've gone already, that might just be something that's unnecessary as we move
Honestly,
forward.
man, we don't have a fanfic read to do right now, so we can go a little longer. That's fine.
Yeah, we don't have to stop at an hour.
Oh, I don't intend to.
We're enjoying the conversation. Oh, good.
All right.
I'll shut up.
No, you won't. Don't you lie to me.
Posse.
So how Lovecraft conceived the name Necronomicon is not clear. No small wonder. Okay. But Lovecraft did claim that the title came to him in a dream.
I mean,
Lovecraft wrote the title, as translated from the Greek, meant an image of the law of the dead. Though S.T. Joshi states that Lovecraft's own etymology is almost entirely unsound.
I believe it.
Thankfully, it's all Greek to me. So,
no.
There was also
Hilarious.
there was a paragraph going into the reasons why the words didn't make sense, and I have omitted that because I'm not Michael. So, John, you're welcome.
Ouch! Let me just define what Greek means.
I'm gonna go ahead and take a drink just for celebratory reasons.
That's what Greek means, actually. That's why all of those, wonderful fraternities and sororities do the same. It's Greek life, my friend. Opa.
It's all Greek to me. You take a shot.
So, Lovecraft was often asked about the veracity of the Necronomicon, and always answered that it was completely his invention. So he never purported it was a real work, so everyone just kind of ran with the ball on their own, having read his material. In a letter to Willis Conover, Lovecraft elaborated on his typical answer. Now, about the terrible and forbidden books, I am forced to say that most of them are purely imaginary. There never was any Abdul al-Hazred or Necronomicon, for I invented these names myself. As for seriously written books on dark, occult, and supernatural themes, in all truth, they don't amount to much.
Also, I find it very concerning that you ask me to put on pants. There's no other pants rule in this shop.
And that is why it's more fun to invent mythical works like the Necronomicon or the Book of Iban.
Or pants.
Or pants. So, reinforcing the book's fictionalization, the name of the book's supposed author, Abdul al-Hazred, isn't even a grammatically correct Arabic name.
Oh,
compounding this point, Lovecraft's first use of the name Abdul al-Hazred was apparently as a pseudonym he gave himself as a 5-year-old.
No way. Bullshit. Is that true?
That is true.
Oh,
hey, every idea that you have as a 5-year-old is a valued and very, achievable thing, so you should hold on to that tight.
Listen.
I'm gonna write down every idea my girlfriend's daughter has, because she's 5, so...
Furthermore, how yeasty is this son of a bitch that at 5 he has a pseudonym?
So do you think he was just born racist, and then by 5 years old he was probably, beating this idea to death in a...
Man. I hope so.
I believe it.
Goodness. Well, so in 1927, Lovecraft wrote a brief pseudo-history of the Necronomicon, which was published in 1938, after his death, entitled History of the Necronomicon. In the history, Al-Hazred is said to have been a, quote-unquote, half-crazed Arab who worshipped the Lovecraftian entities Yog-Sothoth and Thulu in the early 700s CE. He is described as identifying himself as a prophet entrusted with guiding humanity into the Great Black Dawn. It's racially charged.
You were going to say dong, and I got really...
Yeah, I was... Ooh,
Yes, the Great Black Dong is brought to you by Lovecraft.
I mean, it would be on brand.
I mean,
I like that better.
The creature that stirs in the pants would probably be the Lovecraftian title for that work.
Oh, I think he
Instead
inspired
of BBC, it's BBD.
Yeah, I think he inspired the movie It Comes at Night.
And Black Snake Moan, all at once. Hell, they mostly come at night. Mostly. He is purported as having visited the ruins of Babylon, the subterranean secrets of Memphis, and the empty quarter of Arabia, seeking texts about ceremonial magic and the ritual use of drugs to inform his rituals to conjure the elder gods from their ancient slumber through transdimensional portals. And that is what the Necronomicon is supposed to entail. Yes. Or for those of you who have watched the film Hellboy, the original one with Ron Perlman, that's kind of it's a very Lovecraftian kind of storyline that they tell.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So in his last years, the mad Arab lived in Damascus, where he wrote the Al-Azif before his sudden and mysterious death in 738. In subsequent years, Lovecraft wrote, the book gained considerable, though surreptitious, circulation amongst the philosophers of the age, and impelled certain experimenters to terrible attempts. Again, the man is a fuck what is long-winded, let's say.
Yeah.
Resulting in the work and its myriad translations being banned, suppressed, and burnt, as most cultures deemed it a work of absolute evil.
Is that
according to Lovecraft?
True? That's not bullshit?
Yes. No, that is not bullshit. But again, this is his claim. So he's it's his own self-aggrandizing thing, is that the Necronomicon it's very difficult for any copies of it to endure, because any culture that sees it, it's kind of, it's destroyed on sight because it's nothing but evil. There's kind of, it lies in the same kind of like the Ninth Gate idea that they had to burn, every copy of the book written by Satan so that people can't get their hands on it.
Right.
Same principle. According to Lovecraft, the work has all but disappeared in the modern era, which to him is the 20th century, of course, early 20th century. Michael, there's a callback for you here. He cites a vague account of a secret copy appearing in San Francisco during the current 20th century that later perished in fire. This is the first noted appearance since the burning of a certain Salem man's library in 1692, apparently an allusion to the Salem witch trials, where a copy of the Necronomicon was apparently held. So he
gotta tie it all together.
He's threading himself through history in a very, Morty McFly sort of way.
Yeah. It's what you do.
Yes, naturally. According to History of the Necronomicon, the very act of studying the text is inherently dangerous, and those who attempt to master its arcane knowledge generally meet terrible ends.
You go mad.
Everybody goes mad.
I watched Final Destination. I know how this works.
It's the one thing I really love, and Asher kind of pointed it out to me about, since we can all relate to Bloodborne since we've all encountered it in one way, shape, or form. Yes. The idea of frenzy is very much tantamount to a Lovecraftian idea, because you go insane from the exposure to these entities. So when you see something like the, what is it, the Winter Lantern or whatever the heck,
the giant thing with a bunch of eyes that
Winter
causes
Lantern.
a lot of frenzy at once.
When you encounter one of those, you're almost immediately dead unless you have a significant amount of, stuff to swig down to save yourself. And that's it's a Lovecraftian kind of idea.
And now that we only have 5 listeners left, Shane, do you want to describe how to make a bomb?
I can, yes.
Jokes and
Jesus.
Now that we're being watched by the government, it's jokes.
It's all just a joke.
I love my country.
Cunt.
Shane?
My country. Oh, Jesus Christ. Anyway, please. Continue.
So I was going to mention one of my favorite Lovecraftian tales, though, as much as I would besmirch him earlier. He has one called Pickman's Model, which depicts a gentleman who is doing like life paintings And he does like demons and these disgusting scenes where like women are being eviscerated by a giant feral animal and things like this. And so the narrator of the tale goes down with him into his studio, which is a series of subterranean caverns underneath a church, I think. And he walks to all these weird little pits, and as they're exploring the area, there is a noise that they hear, and Pickman pulls a gun out of his pocket and runs to investigate the noise, telling the narrator to stay here, don't move. And he runs away, and as the narrator looks around, he picks up a photograph, and is a photograph of one of these monsters. So the idea is that Pickman actually has access to one of these portals, and he's keeping these creatures and painting them from life, as opposed to them just being, facets of his imagination that he's conjuring up and painting.
It would
very interesting story.
It'd be like running into H.R. Geiger when he was Geiger,
yeah.
When he was alive, and just being like, oh, yeah, they actually exist. These things that I've manifested are fucking real, because that was like what people would say about Geiger's art. It's like, we don't know how he gets this dark, like the imagery that he brings out, like the monsters and things that he's created. Like, it's so unsettling because there's no other way to come up with that idea than from experience. Like,
right. And funnily enough,
that's why Alien was such a memorable movie, because of his design.
Oh yeah, you see a xenomorph and you know it's a fucking xenomorph.
You know what's funny? So it's actually pronounced Giger. I'm sorry. I've watched enough documentaries. Someone's going to rake me over the coals.
My apologies.
The copy of a book that I have right now of Giger's artwork is entitled Necronomicon. So keeping us on brand here.
Okay.
Giger is another one of those acolytes of this movement. We'll have a talk about Giger at some point, because he's actually involved in Jodorowsky's Dune, which is what lends him going into the Alien franchise. But
I need to read that.
It's fantastic. The documentary about Jodorowsky's Dune as well is well worth watching if you haven't checked it out. Anywho, callback on another callback. So the Necronomicon is frequently mentioned in an array of Lovecraft's short stories and novellas. However, despite numerous references to the book, Lovecraft was very sparing of details about its appearance and contents, which I think has helped to kind of perpetuate the mythology along. It's the general principle that you get, that the less you show is more. Allow the readers to kind of manifest it on their own. Or the Hitchcock principle, as we would call it.
I was going to say, I wonder how much he kind of took from that sort of never mind, I'm having a stroke here.
You're fine. I was going to say, he does precede Hitchcock, so by quite a significant amount.
I would be curious to see how many of these novellas that Hitchcock had read.
Interesting.
Just to see, not necessarily the general themes or the characters in there, but just how untold a lot of these things are, because Lovecraft does rely a lot on the theory of it's in the dark, you can't see it, right. The theory of the unknown, because that's that he kind of, I don't know if he coined the term, but a lot of people call his work existential horror, which is why I was drawn to it so much, being someone that studies physics, in the fact that we can't understand the workings of these elder gods, right? And so the idea of showing, or not even showing, but just keeping it in the dark, I wonder how much Hitchcock kind of was influenced by that.
It's an interesting parallel. Yeah, it's something I haven't correlated openly frequently. So, and we'll touch on that in a moment, as a matter of fact.
Ooh.
So he once wrote that if anyone were to try to write the Necronomicon, it would disappoint all those who have shuddered at cryptic references to it.
That's smart.
The Necronomicon is undoubtedly a substantial text, as indicated by its description in the Dunwich Horror in 1929. In the story, Wilbur Whatley visits Miskatonic University's library, which Miskatonic University, for those uninitiated, is a university Lovecraft made up. And so it is, he uses it anytime he needs to have a scapegoat to go to an area of knowledge, so he made up professors that taught at it. And he attributes a lot of things to things that happen at Miskatonic University. Stephen was very insistent I needed to have a much larger passage to discuss that, and I will get into that at some other point.
It's a fair point. Yeah, I agree.
So Wilbur Whatley goes to the Miskatonic University's library to consult the unabridged version of the Necronomicon, which they do have in their collection, for a spell that would have appeared on the 751st page of his own inherited but defective edition. The Necronomicon passage in question states, let me put on my Lovecraft voice again, slithering serpentine through dimensions like maggots in spent offal, the old ones aim to invade this plane and propagate madness through beguiling our bestial brains. Existing outside the spaces we know, they walk serene and primal, undimensioned and unseen. And should they finally appear amongst us after these endless eons, even death may die. The Black Dawn will bloom at their behest, and they will be the authors of our oblivion.
And also, if you put your cookie dough into the oven while it is preheating, you will have a better cookie experience.
Yes. I don't know why Lovecraft is a Keebler elf.
That's on page 821, not 751. You're all over the place, John. You need to cite your sources, man.
Protozoan preheating.
I don't even have one tab open. I don't give a frick.
And it shows.
So,
bruh.
According to Lovecraft's history of the Necronomicon, copies of the original Necronomicon were held by only 5 institutions worldwide. There's a list coming, gentlemen. Prepare. I'm waiting for Michael's bullshit.
The White House.
Oh, God. I have to remember.
I'm a dope, and I didn't tell you all how many lies there were, and now
okay.
I feel
kept
bad.
wanting to ask, but I kept forgetting.
I'm sorry.
So.
I have neglected to mention it.
Oh no, not the game show that we've invented that doesn't have a prize or a point.
I know, but it's kind of fun.
It's the whole point of the podcast. Well,
So,
air quotes point.
there are 3 lies in the show.
And we've missed them all.
You have missed them all. So, from here on in,
Why'd you...
I just wanted to make sure. I forgot whether or not I had any others coming, but
Fair.
pun intended. So, according to the history, here are the 5 institutions where they hold copies of the Necronomicon. Just since it's a trope for us to have lists that are fabricated, I figured I'd go with it.
Fair.
The British Museum. So Indiana Jones is happy.
Mm-hmm.
The Bibliothèque Nationale de France. The Widener Library of Harvard University in Cambridge, Massachusetts. The University of Buenos Aires. And the library...
Craig's house.
And Craig's house. And the library of the fictional Miskatonic University, also in the fictitious Arkham, Massachusetts. So...
Oh, the HBO show makes a lot more sense now, because there is an Arkham that they're heading to in the show.
Okay, and you just thought it was a Batman reference?
Yeah, I was like, what is this? I was like, it's a really unoriginal pull, but I still like the show because the characters are well written so far.
Lovecraft don't know nothing about no Batman.
I am curious to see like where that name originated from, because I can't imagine that like when they're like, oh, where's Batman gonna be set, and they come up with Arkham, like, oh yeah, let's make him Lovecraft.
Well,
like,
Lovecraft wrote
I feel like
the original
there's
Batman.
I'm gonna call posse on that.
yeah, that's not true.
Just yeah. But I wonder if it's just like, if it's just a common word or something like that. I have no idea. But like, just that connection just seems so faulty that I have to question it, you know?
Well, we'll table that for later discussion. We'll actually investigate whether we can find out the origin, Arkham origins, in fact. For you gamers out there.
The least recognized game out of those 4.
That's uncalled for, Michael. I mean, it is the worst one, but I mean, that's just because they gave it to another company. Anywho.
Exactly.
So although Lovecraft insisted that the book was pure invention, and of course other writers invented passages from the book for their own works, there are accounts of some people actually believing the Necronomicon to be a real book.
Of course.
We alluded to the one earlier where pranksters were putting stuff in the Yale library. Lovecraft himself sometimes received letters from fans inquiring about the authenticity of the Necronomicon and his ability to provide chapters. There are, of course, pranksters who offered copies of it for sale for astronomical amounts of money and then would never provide it, of course. Like Blood Circus before it.
There you go.
The Vatican also receives requests for this book frequently from those who believe the Vatican Library holds a copy.
I mean, that doesn't seem too out of the ordinary for me. I mean, when you think about exorcisms and stuff like that, people will be like, oh, demons, elder gods.
Well, and if you want to fight evil, you must know evil. So, if you've got a researcher who wants to combat the elder gods breaking into our astral plane, gotta read the book.
Yeah, no, it seems reasonable enough to me. I'm not surprised that these people believing this stuff is real. I mean, I don't know if you guys knew about this one case that happened. You are both aware of Slender Man, right?
Yeah.
The internet phenomenon.
Vaguely.
Also, the copy pasta.
There's this other one.
There was a case.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. What?
No, go ahead.
There was a case that a couple years ago, I will put in the show notes, where so the idea behind Slender Man is it's an internet phenomenon, urban legend, what have you, where it's this like big, long, creepy dude without a face that steals children, right? And these two girls actually stabbed one of their classmates almost to death in a ritual to Slender Man, who was just invented on the internet. Like, literally, the guy has been, like, they found the person who posted the original pictures of Slender Man, and it was actually an internet sort of, like, challenge to try and Photoshop these pictures of it.
There's a great documentary on everything that you've just described on HBO.
Is there?
100%.
I totally believe it. It's been a couple of years,
yeah.
and yes, it is. So I won't link the HBO thing, but I'll link some sort of connection to it.
That is also an aspect of the entire storyline for the Black Tapes podcast, which I know I have mentioned previously on here.
You have.
Yes, so if you go back, the Slender Man plays a very pivotal role in their own mythology throughout the arc of that show.
Really?
Their ending is abysmal, but the show and some of the acting leaves a lot to be desired. But the show was compelling. It's fun to listen to.
And on the same note, and like things are like kind of like made up and abysmal endings. Have you guys ever checked out the Bible? You guys ever checked out that little?
The ending is the best part of that book, though. I got to tell you.
Honestly, yeah, I read up to what was it? I think it was Numbers or Leviticus, and I was like, "Screw it, skip to the end."
Talking about authors really making a fucking meal out of something before trying to make a point. Fuck.
Yes.
You got to do what you got to do, man.
All right, and those 5 listeners
got to sell them
down
books.
to 3, and that's us proofing the episode. So
yes,
Shane.
Woo.
Oh goodness!
All right. So, similarly, the University Library of Tromsø, Norway, lists a translated version of the Necronomicon, which is attributed to Petrus de Dacia, and it's published in 1994. Although the document is listed as unavailable, so it has been lost.
A likely story.
Yes, it's clickbait in library form.
I love it.
In 1973, the Owlswick Press issued an edition of the Necronomicon written and which was an. I'm sorry. The press issued an.
You're sounding like me.
I hit a Michael like a hole there. Unfortunately.
And I'm Lovecraft.
Brilliantly done. So the Owlswick Press issued an edition of the Necronomicon written in an indecipherable, apparently fictional language known as Duriak. This was a limited pressing of 348 copies.
Oh man, I wonder how much those would sell for today. Just like, yeah, it's the Necronomicon. You can't read it, can't decipher it, but it's the Necronomicon. What are you going to do about it? Also, 300,000.
Doesn't Duriak sound like an anti-nausea medicine?
Yes.
The first thing I heard of was durian, the fruit. You've never heard of a durian?
No.
I have no idea where it's from, but it's a giant, it's like the size of your head. But when you crack it open, the smell is supposed to be so revulsive that you like almost automatically vomit. But again, I'll link in the show notes there. But
Michael,
it's
you've
called
been
a durian.
very charged towards Shane lately. Yeah.
Revulsive?
I've just been heated. Repulsive? Revulsive?
Yeah, repulsive is good. And revolting
take a
is good.
drink.
Revulsive is not a word, I don't think.
I combine the two.
Yes.
A portmanteau to try and pronounce a French
Bless
word
you.
there.
Yes. Yes. Well, when you crack my head open, there's a smell that comes out of it that is also repulsive to some and alluring to others.
Do you like pineapple?
I did an eyebrow thing
wait.
there for those that can't. I like asparagus.
Oh, man. That reminds me of a Father John Misty song called Two Wildly Different Perspectives.
Indeed. We're almost done with this nonsense, kids. So the line between fact and fiction was further blurred in the late 70s when a book purporting to be a translation of the real Necronomicon was published. The book, by the pseudonymous Simon, had little connection to the fictional Lovecraft mythos, but was instead based on Sumerian mythology. Later dubbed the Simon Necronomicon, the work has never been out of print and has sold 800,000 copies by 2006,
Wow.
which makes it the most popular Necronomicon to date. Despite its contents, the book's marketing focused heavily on the Lovecraft connection, because why not stand on the shoulders of giants, and made sensational claims for the book's magical power and potency. The blurb states that it was potentially the most dangerous black book known to the Western world. That's racist.
That almost seems like a conspiracy theory book there. Like,
Yeah.
that would be like on the blurb, and it's like an 80-page book on how, I don't know, some race is destroying the world or something stupid like that.
And I only have enough
Conspiracy
money
theory
to
garbage.
buy either that book or the new Game Shark book with all the cheat codes, so I'm going to go for the Game Shark book.
Nice. I was going to say the closest correlation I had to what Michael was talking about is the Tool song Dier von Satan, where it is a cookie recipe that is said in German at a very angry and hostile tone with like marching sounds in the background, but it's just a recipe that he's reading in German.
I'm going to say that most German sounds angry to
American ears?
me. Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
real talk, the most uncomfortable thing that I've ever had happen at Bottle Shop in the past year, outside of, like, the world being on fire, was when Tool's catalog was finally released to Streamables, and it was on Spotify, so it was in that month time frame. Everyone was like, okay, let's see if I still like Tool, and I'm pretty sure I probably mentioned something about it on the podcast then. But I threw on that album at work, like later at night, and I had one customer walk in during that song, and I was like, I promise I'm not listening to hateful German shit. Like, I'm not listening to, like, Nazi rock. Like, it's not like that.
No, it's a fun song. I appreciate it immensely. Just from a satirical standpoint, that they really hit the nail on the head with it. Well, it's funny, to devolve entirely again, apropos of the conversation you were having with Duan, I had a very similar experience in Tower Records. So for your Neil Peart conversation, I had one when Dimebag got shot. There was a slew of metalheads that worked for us at the time who insisted that I, as the manager, let them put on Pantera all night. And so I was like, you know what, man? I like Pantera. I'm not going to argue with you. Go ahead and put on like 2 records and then just kind of bounce back and forth. So I think we did Cowboys from Hell, of course, and maybe like Power Trip. And I got heavily scolded the next day because we're only supposed to... We got paid for the things that go into the play stock. So individuals from record companies would give us money to incentivize that we would push records they wanted to sell. So us, reducing that number by putting Pantera on, which we're not being paid for, got some folks very upset at corporate. And plus we opened copies of the CD that we would have sold in order to play them, which got folks really upset. Time. So yeah, that's my... I had a great night. I was like, could you just please get this over with? Because I don't want to hear this anymore. Just play Cemetery Gates 1,800 times tonight, kids, so you can mourn. But anyway, I digress for no good reason. It occurred to me as you were talking about folks walking into the store.
No, for sure.
So, the Simon Necronomicon, of course, due to its burgeoning popularity of 800,000 copies sold, they then published three additional volumes subsequently. The Necronomicon Spellbook, a book of path workings with the 50 names of Marduk, for those of you who enjoy demonology. Dead Names, The Dark History of the Necronomicon, which is a history of the book itself and of the late 1970s New York occult scene. And The Gates of the Necronomicon, Instructions on Path Workings with the Simon Necronomicon. So go figure.
Okay. Yeah.
Another hoax version of the Necronomicon, of course, appeared in 1978, which was edited by George Hay, and included an introduction by the paranormal researcher and writer Colin Wilson. David Langford described how the book was prepared from a computer analysis of a discovered ciphertext by Dr. John D. The result,
like his he doesn't have an actual last name, or it's D-E-E.
D-E-E.
It's actually D's nuts.
Indeed.
Oh, short for D.
Dr. John D's nuts. The resulting translation was, in fact, written by the occultist Robert Turner, and it was far truer to the Lovecraftian version than the Simon text, and even incorporated quotations from Lovecraft's stories in its passages. In any event, this goes on and on. There are a lot of people who have tried to kind of dovetail and steal the Necronomicon and use it for their own. In particular, I'm not running through any more of this stuff. There's another 8 paragraphs of subset works. But we all know there are myriad appearances in television and film. The most famed that I can, of course, recall is the Evil Dead franchise, which is glorious. And if you haven't seen them, you should investigate. Yes, John.
Michael, have you seen them?
Nope.
All reliable.
I already said no.
You son of a bitch. I'm in.
Why'd you even think that I would see that?
You know what's funny? My favorite part of the original Evil Dead is when they find the tape and they're listening to the gentleman discussing the Naturon de Monto and reading out the spells that he can conjure the creatures of the forest with. That is my favorite. Like, exposition scenes in films are my favorite thing. Like, my favorite Indiana Jones segments are when they're explaining the Ark of the Covenant, or they're talking about the creation of, all these other things. Like those are the ones that grab me. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's world building. It's the best part.
Because it's always the promise of what's to come, and then they always fumble it.
Yeah, I would say, Michael, if you skip Evil Dead 1, that's fine. I think Evil Dead 2, because of what Shane mentioned, like, there's so much exposition and, like, little callbacky stuff that it holds your hand, assuming that you haven't seen the B horror movie before it.
Yes.
But is there more, Shane? Is that?
Oh, dude, there's tons.
Isn't there a Sam versus Evil Dead or something like that came out like a couple
Ash versus the Evil Dead?
Yes, it's the television show.
Damn it! You're right.
Yes, there are.
But that's with the original actor, right? From Evil Dead,
yes,
Bruce Campbell,
the gentleman who plays Ash.
Sam is okay.
Who's Sam?
I thought you said Sam. Sorry, I thought you said Sam. John, never mind.
Are you having?
Ignore me.
Are you having a stroke? Do I need to call you some help?
I'm always having constant strokes.
I'm going to call an ambulance.
And
Jesus. Tell them to go past your house.
Wait until your 5-year-old's out of the room.
Oh my Satan! What?
So
end me, Shane, please.
All right, here's a couple. Of course, Ex Mortis featured as a primary plot point in the Evil Dead film series, of course, based on the Necronomicon. The book in the Evil Dead franchise is also called the Naturom de Monto. Unlike Lovecraft's original, the Evil Dead version is portrayed as having outright inherent magical properties triggered through incantations, while some expanded universe stories such as Marvel Zombies versus the Army of Darkness portrays the book as being actually sentient and capable of conversing with Ash Williams and other characters. Which I love that they have a face on it in certain depictions where it's a book. It's actually supposed to have been bound in human skin.
Flesh. Yeah.
Oh, by a hell scholar.
Yeah. So there's a lot of fun with that. And of course, it's also it showed up in Friday the 13th for Jason Goes to Hell, apparently. The director intended to suggest the Necronomicon was used in the resurrection of Jason Voorhees in some form.
Okay.
Which one was that? Was that like the 8th or 9th one?
It's the final Friday, so it might have been like, I think 6th or 7th, if I'm remembering correctly, because then you had like Jason X, Jason in Space.
Yeah, okay, yeah, the Jason X, because that was the one that he was in space.
Yes.
That's the only one I really know anything about. I think I saw like the first 30 minutes of it.
That's pretty much all you need to see.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's apparently also Necronomicon, a 1994 film anthology of 3 Lovecraft stories, which was directed by Brian Yuzna, Christopher Gans, and Shusuke Kaneko. I apologize for my accent.
As you should.
Yes. Though the Necronomicon does appear in Afterlife with Archie, for those who are fans of the zombie Archie phenomenon. You also can encounter it there. So anyway, that is what we have. There's so much that you can run with. There are myriad little tributaries that we run off with people taking and running with the concept of the Necronomicon, which is fun. So entertaining bits. So, gentlemen, stabs while we're here on what may have been false.
Other than stupid things that... Is the Necronomicon an actual story?
No.
Exactly.
Obviously, yes.
Yeah, no,
okay.
I have nothing, yes. Yeah.
No, I got
John,
nothing,
anything?
man. No, I'm
Okay, well... it's a lot, and of course with a lot of my things, they tend to be text heavy, so... But this was a topic I was absolutely, just completely entranced by.
I could tell you have a lot of interesting information here. Like, you definitely did your homework.
I'm a big fan of the Elder God mythos, naturally, and have spent a decent amount of time with it. So, you're gonna have some fun with this, gents.
Oh,
The Mad Arab, whereas the actual description, so what I said, the lie, is he's described as identifying himself as a prophet entrusted with guiding humanity into the Great Black Dawn. That is not true. That is purely something that Shane came up with. And you joked about the Black Dong, so you could have run with it if you tried. But the jokes, I managed to lead you astray enough with the chuckles.
I should have asked about what he meant by the Black Dawn, because that didn't sound familiar in any of the novellas or short stories that I read of Lovecraft.
I was waiting for you to weigh in, because you were the one that had knowledge.
Yeah, no, I did. I let us down. I should have known better, because I always loved when they reference Al or Zed. I butchered that.
It's okay.
Anyway.
Would you like to know what it actually said for the installment on Wikipedia?
Please.
He is described as being from Sana'a in Yemen. They have no further explanation of who he is. It's just, he was described as being from Yemen. And he visited places.
Yeah, he went places.
He was from the peninsula.
Yeah, he's a guy.
The south
He traveled.
Part. He was cool.
So then, subsequently, the other lie I made up is then what he does, because where he was seeking texts about ceremonial magic and the ritual use of drugs to inform his rituals to conjure the elder gods, I directly stole materials from Aleister Crowley, who actually did go use drugs ritualistically and go to pursue. I added in the stuff about conjuring the elder gods from other dimensions, because that is what most of the Lovecraft lore surrounds. But they never said anything about him going. It's just, he visited these places, seeking texts.
Man.
I swear, I thought there was some sort of drug reference in previous stories that he wrote, but then I realized that, like, he was pretty much a prude. I mean, he was a homebody. He didn't really do anything, aside from writing a lot of text. He didn't really do anything outside, because he was afraid of people, of minorities.
All right.
That's neither here nor there. But, like, so the fact that, like, his character, one of his main important characters that sets a lot of the universe, like, did drugs to get to his, like, to come to his conclusions. Like, I don't know why it just didn't click.
Well, I mean,
for me.
he was.
I'm a little upset.
He was
myself.
a mad Arab, my friend. So
allegedly.
Now, finally,
yes.
I was hoping, and I'm glad, because you both have been sniffing these out really well. The quote from the Necronomicon is not Lovecraft. That is all me.
From 7...
So the slithering serpentine through the dimensions like maggots in spent offal is all Shane Hunt, my friends. So
wow.
I did add in a couple phrases he uses. Undimensioned and unseen is one that he uses frequently in that passage. But would you like to get a sample of what actually is said in that?
Before you do that, I just want to say how annoyed I am. Because I think it was Dunwich Horror, they do quote a small snippet from a page that is cited. I thought it was 751.
Yep, I have
yes. So when you said it was that specific number, I'm like, oh, of course this isn't a lie because it's what he's talking about. Like they reference a number in this book.
Okay. So here's a passage because this thing is 8 paragraphs long. And I could not read this all without just putting the both of you to sleep. But nor is it to be thought that man is either the oldest or the last of Earth's masters, or that the common bulk of life and substance walks alone. The old ones were, the old ones are, and the old ones shall be. Not in the spaces we know, but between them. They walk serene and primal, undimensioned, and to us unseen. Yog-Sothoth knows the gate. Yog-Sothoth is the gate. Yog-Sothoth is the key and guardian of the gate. Past, present, future, all are one in Yog-Sothoth. This goes on. Like, it is the most self-aggrandizing bit of nonsense since the, cheese quesalupa from Taco Bell.
Also, I really love that,
don't you talk shit about the cheese quesalupa.
I really love that he's, forcing people to speak with an impediment. It's like the joke in Pop Star where he's like, yeah, I wrote this song after going to Spain, but in Spain they're like, Spain. And so he writes the entire song with, Spain. It's like, so I can't just say the name again in that quote. What's the thing that he keeps fucking blathering about?
Yog-Sothoth.
Yog-Sothoth. It's like you're trying to suck your own tongue while you're talking.
Well, the way that it's spelled, it is pretty much you got to suck on your own tongue in order to pronounce it.
Or his tongue, maybe.
Yeah, it's like S-O-T-H-O-T-H, so.
Yes, it's S-O-T-H-O-T-H. Yep.
Well, that is some...
See, I know something.
Amazing.
I've done Reddit, tell you what.
Tell you what.
So, that, gentleman, they do reference Cthulhu in that post, though.
You mean Cthulhu?
At one point.
You mean the Cthulhus?
Fuck off.
I was gonna ask, so it is pronounced
No,
Cthulhu,
that's how I pronounce it, because the way that he phonetically wrote out the pronunciation when I've looked up Lovecraft's description, you can't pronounce it. It's intended to be an alien tongue. So, it's like...
That's why Cthulhu Flatagen.
Yeah, it's...
I know that I pronounced that not at all correct, but I gotta try.
Yes, so...
What?
We'll get to that. Who hath seen the deep frozen city, or the sealed tower, long garrisoned with seaweed and barnacles? Great Thulu is their cousin, yet can he spy them only dimly. Shub Nigrahath. It's Lovecraft being racist again. As a foulness shall ye know them. Their hand is at your throats, yet ye see them not, and their habitation is even one with your guarded threshold.
So Shane's been talking and quoting these things, and slowly mascara and heavy makeup is starting to appear on his face. Mm-hmm. He's going goth. He's going full goth. By God,
I feel like I conjured something.
The gothic.
Stop the damn match. This man's got a family.
Well, that was fun.
Yeah,
I like it.
I like that you did the exorcism myths, and now I like that you did the exorcism myths, and now you've done this. It's a really good lane. I think you could tackle more of this shit, and I would just lap it up. What?
All right. Well, don't threaten me with a good time.
Speaking of lapping up, should I tease what I want to do next week?
Yeah, whip it out and tease me.
Okay.
Well, before you start, is Mr. Watkins going to have a chance to present another topic?
Oh, true. I don't want to assume that John doesn't want to do a topic.
I have not looked into
I'd rather him let me down in person.
Yeah, I have not looked into a topic. I will not have one for you next week.
Topic.
I'm getting a lot of first season vibes right now.
Have you guys heard of the Da Vinci Code? What's that about?
Oh, Jesus, please.
Did I tell you my Da Vinci Code story?
No, but let Michael tease and let's end on your Da Vinci.
Okay. All right, do it.
All right, fine. So this is a topic almost near and dear to your heart, John. Instead of talking about what you love the most, Pika,
Pika,
I'm going to be talking about the Pika, sorry.
Please.
My apologies. I'm going to be talking about a field of alternative medicine known as urine therapy.
Which is what R. Kelly was giving to people for years.
We are one hole away from something actually interesting.
Exactly. I figured I would say this and kind of hopefully, get you to do something on, Pika or Pika or whatever you kids call
Michael,
it
if you want me to
nowadays.
rub feces on your face, just ask.
Listen, Michael,
if
he doesn't do the topic, though, Michael, you can't be pissed off.
No.
All right.
I'm not going to respond to that.
Fuck me to death with your Da Vinci story.
Tell me the story.
So, I swear, I'm not trying to be problematic with any of this, but
oh no.
But you're going to be problematic with this?
No, I'm just this is not me talking about Straight Outta Compton again, I promise. That
wasn't problematic.
Good.
Sorry.
I'm glad.
It wasn't.
So I went and saw the Da Vinci Code by myself at the theater in the now defunct mall in Peoria. I'm totally spacing on the name.
Arrowhead is defunct?
No.
Metro
Center.
Oh, I forget Metro Center is in Peoria.
Yes.
Never mind.
They forgot.
You're right. Continue.
I go to Metro, and for those who do not live in the Phoenix metropolitan area, Metro Center is in a bit more of a more run-down part of town. It's kind of a more derelict mall. The reason
it's sketchy as
the
fuck.
reason it is
really
now closed down is because most of the stores had closed, and so you maybe had 3 to 4 places still open, and the food court that was still functioning. So I go to Metro Center to watch this movie. And I am, of course, and when they get to the reveal, I've read the book before. I knew what was, in the offing. But a woman had a fully, inflamed meltdown and stood up and began to hysterically scream at the screen when they showed, the idea that Christ was, spoilers, not divine, and his divinity was voted upon. No, not even better. She stands up, and I'm not doing the affectation to do anything wrong, but just for the sake, she points at the screen, and in the midst of this raving jabbering, she goes, "Not my Jesus!" Over and over.
You know exactly who that was. I don't have a problem with that voice, because you know exactly who that was.
Karen.
Yes. Shut up, Karen. Put on your fucking
Karens.
mask.
But yeah, that's my anytime I hear
topical.
Da Vinci Code, that's the first thing is immediately I start hearing in my head, "Not my Jesus!"
Hashtag not my Jesus.
She is not ready for angels and demons.
No, not at all. You know what's funny is I was actually just talking about this too, is that Dan Brown kind of predicted all of this stuff. If anybody read his the Inferno book.
I have not read Inferno. I've read Angels and Demons, Da Vinci Code, and Deception Point. That was it.
Okay, so spoilers for Inferno it is a crazed madman who is he's a virologist or a scientist who works with viruses, and he believes, like Thanos later, because the book was of course written pre-Avengers, that the human population was choking the planet to the extent that we do need to cause a cataclysmic event to occur to reduce our surplus population. So he creates a virus that will kill half of humanity indiscriminately, and he plans to release it. And so the whole idea for the story is that they are trying to catch up to, where this person left the virus, and it is all inspired by Dante's Inferno.
Got it. Okay.
And really interesting, but yes, once the virus was out, I'm like, oh no, Inferno was real. They didn't catch it in time, and now we're all just being...
It was very fucked up watching the Marvel Cinematic Universe chronologically and getting to Endgame, like in the big swell in Arizona, like for our relativity, like hitting the Thanos point, being like, are we in a Thanos moment right now? Is this oh fuck, okay. But you know what, Shane,
instead of
Michael, I've kind of heard that, like the flu last year killed more people, so we're good, we're fine, don't worry about it, guys.
And instead of the snap, we got the clap.
Right.
If only.
By the way, John, to praise you on our way out the door, I really appreciated that meme that you posted of the, the 1% death rate for COVID, and that's not a big number. And then it's the 0.0025% or 265% of mail fraud has been proven or occurred. And they're like, that's a big number. It made me very happy.
The funny part, and the only... I'm not going to go into a big tirade, but I just want to note that a lot of the research about mail fraud has been done by a local university. And I was very proud of that.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, ladies and germaphobes, I got way too close to the microphone. But maybe you won't hear that.
The spike.
Yes, ladies and germaphobes, thank you for being here for this spine-tingling edition of the Disinformed podcast. We are elated to have you here as always. Gentlemen, any thoughts you want to send them out on to keep them safe and cuddled and cozy in their beds as Yog Sothoth prepares the gate to enter our realm?
I would really implore that you question the existence and pertinence of birds. And you might want to also question sea life, too. Like, have you ever seen a fish that was real? I haven't. Birds aren't real.
Birds aren't real, and anemones are your enemies.
There we go.
What? Yeah, shit. No, I can't say anything other than that.
Michael.
No. Rah! It's Lovecraft.
Well, kick his ass, Seabass. If you're enjoying what you're hearing here, please check us out on the social networks. You can find us, of course, anywhere that disreputable podcasts are distributed. Your preferred podcast provider. Check us out every Friday morning on YouTube. You have Disinformed After Dark, our video component of this glorious little podcast, and it's a lot of fun. And I have a tease for all of you folks that are going to be hearing this. I have in my hands the keys to our future salvation, and you can see it in mere moments, gentlemen. Oh no, you're not gonna see it now. I'll show you in a minute. So,
please,
get
Daddy.
excited. But, and also, of course, find us on all the social networks. We actually have a link tree present now, thanks to John's concerted efforts, as mentioned in last week's podcast.
Oh, shit, son.
So, if you pop over to our Instagram, we are at Disinformed Podcast, and you can, of course, find the link tree there. And, of course, we're at Facebook.com/Disinformed Podcast, and on Twitter's at Disinformed Pod. But I believe that is going to compress this into a lobster roll of absolute loathing and disgust. So for the Disinformed Podcast, I am Yog Sothoth Shane.
I am sometimes constipated John.
Oh, well, shit. I'm Sub-Niggurath. Also known as the Madness Between Worlds, also known as the Madness in Worlds, also known as the one who not stops the talking, also known as Michael.
I'm Lovecraft!
Oh, man.
Well, so long, and good night.
So long!